Hello, this is Ed Gomes on the game treatment presentation called Mission to Mars. So this game, the target audience for this game would be high school chemistry students, mostly 10th and 11th graders. The background for this game is that most chemistry students fail to understand real-life applications of chemistry. Also because many of the concepts are new to them, there's a lot of anxiety towards the curriculum, especially if there's math involved. The game genre of Mission to Mars would be an adventure game where the protagonist, called Riley, has to save a colony's compound where she lives by applying chemistry concepts. Very brief overview of the learning goals and objectives, and also the other slides really just contain overviews. The game treatment itself has more details. The big goals of this game is to give students engaging in real-life use of gas laws and stoichiometry, even though the scenario is fantastical in some ways. Helps students actually learn the academic content of gas laws and stoichiometry, but to do so intrinsically, and to help students develop a growth mindset through the hero's quest. The actual learning objectives for this game are: the player will correctly apply gas laws to calculate the amount of gas needed in each gas chamber using moles, volume, pressure, and temperature of gas. The player will correctly predict how much gas is produced by the greenhouse through the use of stoichiometric calculations. A little bit of the background of the story before I go into the character and story outline is that just the years in the future, it could be 2207 or even another year, but space exploration has flourished significantly in the last 100 years. After several manned missions to Mars and some to Saturn's and Jupiter's moons, 6 people were chosen to form the first long-term colony in Mars. Plans are also in the work to build a space station orbiting in Jupiter. So this is just the context in which the story happens. So character outline, the protagonist, her name is Riley Smith. She's 16 years old and daughter of James and Lisa Smith. Her parents and her brother are STEM geniuses, but she is not. She likes to read fiction, and otherwise she's just an average teenager. She has been in Mars for about 10 years now. She remembers very little about Earth, but she does idealize what she remembers. There's a lot of tension building between her and her family because she doesn't want to be in Mars. She doesn't fit with anybody there. And she believes that her childhood has been stolen. The colony is expected to stay in Mars for only 2 more years, and then they go back to Earth, but that seems too long for her. The other characters in the story are James and Lisa Smith, who are the parents of Riley. They are very intelligent, bright scientists. Lisa is an exobiologist with experience in microbiology and botany. Her father, James, is an astrophysicist and a computer scientist. James Smith is going to play the sage role in this journey, and him and Riley have a special relationship, even though he has not been able to help her grow in her confidence, but as far as academic confidence, but he is very supportive of her, and they have a good relationship. And that's why he acts as the sage in the journey. Jonah Smith is her older brother, who is a STEM genius like his parents. He's very good with math and engineering, and he can fix anything in the compound. And that's going to be a key part of the issue for her in the journey. And then Marcos and Rita Silva, they're other 2 scientists in the colony. Marcos is a doctor, Rita is a pilot and engineer. They're very minor characters in the story. They're just there to fill in and make the story more believable. Okay, so here's the story/challenge outline. So first, the introduction. When the player first starts playing the game, he realizes, or she realizes, that Riley doesn't want to go on the expedition. The player learns commands on how to interact with environment and characters, just basic things about the game. So here is the hero's journey. The first step is the call to action, in which the rover crashes. So the parents are going on an expedition to explore a Grand Canyon called Valles Marineris, and Riley decides not to go. So their rover crashes, and now Riley realizes is being told that she has to maintain the gas tanks on her own. These are the oxygen gas tanks that keep oxygen in the compound where they live. The challenge for the player here is that the player must find a computer that communicates with the rover and use it. Part 2 of the hero's journey is the refusal. Riley refuses to do the work on her own. She's not gifted in math, science, and or engineering. There's no necessarily challenge for the player at this point. It's just being a part of the story. Part 3, information. Dad tells Riley that he can't help her because of the batteries. They're deep in the canyon. There are too many shadows. These are solar batteries. But he had recorded lessons on gas loss for her, which she can use to make the appropriate calculations and maintain the gas tanks. So now the challenge for the player is to locate those gas loss videos in the computer in the simulation. Number 4, the departure. Riley begins learning gas laws. The player at this point begins interacting with the curriculum, and ideally this is designed somewhat like Khan Academy, where the player watches a video and then attempts some problems. If the player is able to move on, they move on to harder problems, or they have to go back and review. And there's some sort of system that allows the teacher to keep track of students' progress so that the teacher can intervene if necessary. Testing. It takes Riley a day and a half to learn gas laws, and then the treatment, I explain how a day and a half can pass or go by in the video game. The player masters gas laws and curriculum. Step 6, Riley releases the correct amount of air to the first tank. And the challenge for the player here is that the player must learn to use the gas valve. So you see there are some purely game challenges, but there are some academic challenges like in step 4 and 5. That's where the academic rules fit in. Step 7, the ordeal. Riley's woken up when the second tank bursts. The player must learn to read the pressure valve in all tanks. Give the challenge for the player. Number 8, resurrection. Riley must overcome the fear of stoichiometry to perform calculations. The player masters stoichiometry calculations or stoichiometry curriculum. So this is another academic challenge for the player. And then finally, the last step. Riley finishes the task successfully and is able to rest. The player just basks in the joy of the victory. There's no challenge for the player there. So here is the compound, an environmental outline. As you can see, the middle part of the compound is the main area with science lab, benches, computers, tables, desks, chairs, etc. There are pressure chambers in and out. So out on the top there to just go into Mars itself, and then out the back to go to the greenhouse. And you see going back on the pressure chamber, there's a door that allows the player to go to the gas containers where the gas is kept. So part of the challenge in the game is that the player must know how to open the doors and close the doors and get to the right places. So you see there are some distractors, like everybody has a bedroom, there's a bathroom, a kitchen, there's a secondary science lab that there's nothing going to happen there in this game, but those are just, small challenges to engage the player to make the environment believable. But there are only a few areas that the player actually needs to go to complete all the tasks, which is the main area, the gas containers, and Riley's room. Of course, in and out of these areas. And then other design specification is Valles Marineris is the largest canyon in the solar system. It's 4 times wider and deeper than our Grand Canyon. So there's a picture of what it actually looks like on the top left. And then on the top right, there's a computer simulation where scientists have put in different data and different pictures together so that they could see what that canyon looks like. So the canyon would look something like this. There's also a picture there of the Martian sunset. The last scene of the game is Riley just waiting for her parents to get back, satisfied that she overcame her fears and learned chemistry and was able to do the math, and she just kind of enjoys the Martian sunset as she reads a book. Another thing to consider as I was doing research into how to make this believable is the rover itself that the parents go on a ride in. So if you see on the top left there, that is a picture of the rover in the movie um, Martian, The Martian, with where there's somebody who gets stranded in a colony on Mars. Now you see that rover looks kind of futuristic, but is very minimal. It kind of looks bare bones, and a rover like that would never survive a tumble down a very large canyon. However, the rover on the bottom right there is an actual rover designed by NASA for a potentially future manned missions to Mars. And as you can see, it looks more like a Batmobile, probably to survive any accidents, such as falling down a big hole, sliding and tumbling over. So the rover here would have to look something more like this to help the story be believable. And this is just a short overview of the game treatment of missions to Mars.